Channel Zone of Fear, its channel of terror. Good night to all, and now, let's go to today's account, which is Mr. Morrow, and this happened to him in the city of Ribeirão Preto, which is in the state of Sao Paulo, and at that time it was in the year 1988. Mr. Morrow was 22 years old. And today I'm going to tell you what happened to me and to some of the villagers who were chased by a creature that we suspected that a strange man who we saw in the night was the werewolf. And everything, it starts like this. I live in a common neighborhood of my city, and as I was very young at that time, I liked to go out at night to have fun, and places like dance, or where it gave some kind of sound. But already starting my account is that I had a cousin who lived in a rural area where I sometimes visited him. One day my cousin, whose name is Marcelo, came to pick me up to spend a weekend at his place, and so I agreed, and I went with him to spend those days at his house. Well, the fact is, I was quiet all afternoon on his property, and when he arrived in the evening, Marcelo took his father's car, and we went together to a party which would have in a farm near the neighborhood. Arriving at this party, we were drinking and having fun, and my cousin knew most of the people of this party, and so he introduced me a lot of people in this place. I ended up getting lucky, and a woman was interested in me, and of course, my cousin set it up, and I talked to this young lady, and I ended up kissing her. The fact is, my cousin lent me his car, so he could take the girl somewhere, and everything worked out. My cousin gave me the key to his car, and the woman got in the car with me, and then I turned on the car, and then we started hanging around with the car, and we found a place to be together, 100 yards away from the party. I stopped the car in front of a road bar, which was down the street, turned off the car lights, and I was dating the girl. At that instant, I saw a man passing by the dirt road on foot, and this guy was at the farm party too. Soon this guy disappeared down the street. I didn't call him, and I went back to dating a little more. A few minutes passed. I got scared because the guy I saw passing by the road, he was hiding in the middle of the woods. With a frightened face, he kept looking back and forth, trying to see something, as if he were being careful not to be found. With this, I was attentive. With the way this man was, I thought fast to get out of that place, because the weather got a little strange. What happened next was that the woman who was with me in the car told me to be quiet and look at something. At that moment, a huge animal came out behind the car and passed the side of the vehicle. This animal was really weird, and it kind of looked like a monkey with pointy ears, and it walked in a way without making noise and looking at the woods across the road, looking for something. And that's when I understood that the guy I had seen in the middle of the thicket, he ran away from this creature. Well, the animal did not see me inside the car because the light was off. I looked in the woods again, but I did not see that man hiding there, so I ended up turning on the car and the light of the lighthouse. With this lit much of the road. At that moment I took a huge scare, because that beast who passed near the vehicle, now he was standing only on two legs, as if it were a person. This creature was kind of amazed, and looked a little in my direction. Then that beast ran on his feet, and went into the woods that was on the side of the road and disappeared. I think he was afraid that I would catch him with the car. But that animal to me was a werewolf, for this beast had such a strong glow in its eyes that it was something demonic, and its body had a dark and failed coat, and its appearance was almost equal to that of a dog, and its legs were crooked backwards. Other than that, is that this werewolf, it was the same height as a grown man. At that moment, I was very scared to see this creature, then accelerated the fast vehicle, and left that road very terrified, and the woman who was inside the car with me was crying in fear. But as soon as I arrived at the party, she calmed down, and also said that the beast of the road was a werewolf. So at that event, I talked to my cousin about the werewolf, but since he was already kind of drunk, he didn't care much about what I said. But anyway, I stayed with this girl at the party until about 3:30 in the morning, and after that event ended in the farm, people began to leave for their homes. Anyway, my cousin turned on his car, and we took the road back to the place, but it happened that when we were leaving that rural village, it was that we saw, 20 meters in front of a place, a gentleman with a wooden handle in his hands. This gentleman had a full frightened face. We stopped the car in front of your residence to talk to this man for a while. And at that point, while we were talking to the old man, I asked if he wouldn't have seen some kind of huge, dark animal prowling around. The besieger said that animal he saw none. However, the gentleman told us that he got up from bed around 4 o'clock in the morning, and he went walking in his backyard. Then the old man began to hear some moaning noises in the wasteland that had on the side of his place, and that the noises seemed to be of a person suffering from pain. The old man was hidden, but went to his wooden enclosure and looked at the woods. He saw was a man without clothes, rolling across the floor. With this scene happening, he was afraid, but after a minute, the strange man who rolled on the ground suddenly improved, and soon this man began to look inside the old man's place. Where was your clothesline? The besieger realized that that stranger would enter his property to pick up the clothes because the subject was naked. Then old walked through his yard and took a wooden handle in his hands, and then he woke up his dogs too. Soon after, the strange man began to jump over the wooden enclosure to enter the site, but at that moment the besieger's dogs ran to the fence to attack the subject, and with the fright he took from the attack of the dogs, the suspect fell badly from above the fence. And when this man was in the woods, this stranger ran naked through the woods and disappeared. And after that conversation we had with this old man, we went back to my cousin's place, but the image of the werewolf, it wouldn't come out of my head. But of course also, I called story that I went through with this beast, and the guy who was moaning naked in the bush, that to me, he was the beast, and he was near the place passing from werewolf to man. But older people have always said that these creatures existed, but in this whole experience, now I know these creatures of the night are real. And they stay in the darkness of the woods, and they can strike by surprise. Good staff, thank you for watching the video. If you liked, subscribe to the channel to receive more stories of werewolves. Until the next.